So I was looking to kind of just get an update. I think we've gotten a lot of emails on the emergency housing program that was designed to be temporary and has become not so temporary. And they're troubling and disturbing to me. And I just really want to kind of get an idea of what our timeline is on this and where we are with it.
Ivan, you want me to speak about that?
Yeah, just a little bit in general terms, and I know you've reached out to some individuals, and we haven't received a lot back, but we've gotten some information from the state on this. So yeah, if you could just touch on it, John, just a little bit.
So the program was started in Manchester at the start of COVID back in March. It started out really modestly, half dozen, a dozen people. The program has increased in size to the point where we're sort of tracking it from a perspective of what percentage of participants from town to town, what is their ratio to the overall population of the town. So the number of people that are being housed in Manchester right now are about 121 people. It's the highest ever since the start of the program. That's about 2.75% of the Manchester population. If we get to 131 people, it'll be 3% of our population. So we're seeing big numbers increasing. About 70% of the people being housed in Manchester are at the Chalet and the Econo Lodge. And then there's some at the Palmer House, some at the Weather Vane, and some at Four Winds. We have had some pretty significant issues with the program. We have seen some influx of drug activity that might be higher than we would see in Manchester otherwise. We've seen some breaking and entering from participants in the program. And we've also seen some firearms issues. We've also seen some intelligence suggest that we're also seeing out-of-state gang folks show up here in town. So we had a meeting with the state this week with the agency that runs the program. We're going to have another meeting with them next week. So we're going to see what comes from there. There's some zoning issues that we're also worried about. For example, at the Chalet, the occupancy of the units is over 2 people per unit, with the units being what we think is about 400 square feet. So they've got over 2 people living in a 400 square foot apartment with just a bathroom and no kitchen facilities. When you look at our zoning and the adaptive reuse, we're talking about long-term residents in a lodging unit. So you're talking about, it's lacking the washing machines, it's lacking any sort of kitchen facilities that would be required in our zoning if it was going to be zoned for housing versus lodging. So right now, we're also meeting with the owner. Both the Econo Lodge and the Chalet are owned by the same person. We're meeting with them this week. And Ivan, on the water board side, I've had to start looking at the units and say that they've been in use for a year as housing, and there's about 50 gallons a day difference between lodging and residential. So for the Chalet, that would be about a $6,000 water permit fee if we've determined that they're going to be used for residential units versus lodging units. The police department has been involved quite a bit. Captain Owens and Lieutenant Blanchard have done a really good job with it. And I provide the board members an update on the numbers that we're seeing. It's interesting, as a per capita number, like I said, Manchester has about 2.75% of its population. This program accounts for about 2.75% of our population of about 4,300 people. Bennington's numbers are less than 1% of their population. Londonderry has a little bit of units at the Snowden, and Pownell has a couple units at one of their one of their units, but Bennington has the largest number in the county, and Manchester has by far the largest impact as far as the number of people compared to our population. We also sort of question what services are being provided to these people as well. And then the last thing that, we have about 121 people here in Manchester that are being housed. The housing, the homeless surveys that have been done in Bennington County in the past range from about 77 people to 130 people countywide that are homeless. So how we get from a countywide high number of 130 to 121 in one town just seem pretty remarkable, especially when there's prohibitions on evictions. And then the last issue is we also are probably getting our local option sales tax as well. So we're still working through these issues, but we are on top of it. I think the meeting that we had with the state, it was the commissioner and deputy commissioner, I think I would call their response encouraging. And I think they were also kind of surprised to hear about how many people were being housed in Manchester versus our overall population. And the other thing, I guess, Heidi, the last part that I'd mention is we have been tracking the number of calls on these properties from one year to the next. And the percentage of call increases to these properties has actually increased 1,200% in 1 year. Now, when you come up with a percentage like 1,200%, the first thing you wonder is that this can't possibly be true. And I think the numbers a year ago before COVID, we had about 14 calls between these five properties. Since March to this period now, we have 174 calls for these 5 properties. So that's a real startling number, a 1,400% increase in call volume.
And what is it as a percentage of the total calls to the police force? What percentage of these calls constitute all their calls that they're getting?
I think it depends how you count it. I think we get about, I'd have to ask the chief. I think we get about 1,500 to 2,000 calls a year. So 174 calls and that's not even in a full year. So that is a pretty heavy call volume.
10%.
What's that? Yeah.
At least 10%, 10 to 12%.
Yeah, at the very least, I think you could probably categorize the number of calls we're getting based on the previous as a nuisance. And then the calls do run the gamut. Domestics, we have, I forget how many arrests, but we've arrested, I think, 47 people, or we've made 47 arrests related to the program, people that are living there between, and that's not everything on site either. It includes DUIs, driving license suspended. One of the restaurants in the area of the chalet was broken into 3 times by the same person, and we arrested the person. But a local business that's nearby was broken into 3 times.
The town report, by the way, John, says that we handled 3,789 incidents. 900.
Is that police or is that police, fire, and rescue? Is that dispatch?
I'm just looking at the police department report, but it could be. But there were 126 overall, 126 arrests. It'd be interesting to find out how many, of those.
Well, you look at that, Greg. We have 47 arrests related to this.
Right. So that's just program. Yeah, that's disproportionate year over year.
It is. I mean, it is. I told the commissioner, since I've been here in 14 years, this is the greatest. And I think Chief Owens agrees with the statement. This is the greatest. This is the greatest risk to public safety and public tranquility in Manchester that I've seen in 14 years here.